Today was a big day when it comes to news from Ukraine. It was almost one breaking news story after another. Some things that Zelensky said, then we heard things from Trump, we heard things from Marco Rubio and then Macron, and then Zelensky again. And so it's easy right now to sit down for 10 minutes and just kind of break down some of the bigger stuff. Because earlier in the day, Zelensky did have a big kind of open press conference in which people could ask many different questions. There are some things that we learned, like we're finding out, at least from Ukrainian intelligence and the Secret Service, their Secret Service, that China is providing Russia weapons. They are doing other things. We know that they're sending parts, but we're also finding out that they are potentially manufacturing those weapons inside of Russia. Sort of one of those sending things over the border with all the components released and then building it once it gets back over. You technically aren't selling weapons, you're only selling parts, which we knew from the get-go that they were doing that. We also heard more talks about Russia having about 60,000 men massing just over the border of Sumy, so on that border between Ukraine and Russia, with troops and other things, and that Russia's getting ready for a springtime offensive, something we knew about, this being in Zaporizhia and other areas, such as Pokrovsk. But there were other things that were taking place. Zelensky mentioned that a minerals deal between the United States and the U.S. could be signed as early online as of today. But as the day went on, we kept on getting more and more information, such as Donald Trump, who was having a meeting at the Oval Office and at the White House with the Italian Prime Minister. He came out and said, you know what? This deal could be signed as early as next Thursday, while at the same time, the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury said they're still ironing out some things, and it being whatever deal it's going to be. Remember, the Ukrainian parliament has to sign whatever deal first before Zelensky signs it, and that was big enough news for the day. But it wasn't the biggest news for the day. For those who don't know, inside of France, there was a couple major meetings taking place. Macron being in a meeting with Witkoff, Marco Rubio being in a meeting with the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergey Lavrov. And now we finally have a statement from the U.S. State Department that came out from a spokesperson, Tammy Bruce, who said, Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke today with the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergey Lavrov. The secretary conveyed to his Russian counterpart the same message the U.S. team communicated to the Ukrainian delegation and our European allies in Paris. President Trump and the United States want this war to end and have now presented to all parties the outline of a durable and lasting peace. The encouraging reception in Paris to the U.S. framework shows that peace is possible if all parties commit to reaching an agreement. So this means the U.S., after all the meetings have taken place, some of which with just Russia, then just Ukraine, and went back and forth, has an outline. We don't know what's in this outline. We don't know if it's Russia making concessions, which they've already said no to multiple times and reiterated it only just, 3 days ago, that they're not conceding land and they're not doing other things, and they still want everything that they want from day one when they started their invasion of Ukraine. This aside, we know that other meetings have taken place. We do know that today there was, let's just say, better or worse, Witkoff, who's been spewing out Russian narratives and propaganda, had meetings with other officials. And even today, Zelensky called off Witkoff, saying that he's spewing Russian narratives and then passing that along essentially to Trump, which, as we know, that's where Trump is getting a lot of his information from. But we are now hearing from Macron, we're hearing from Zelensky, we're hearing from the Ukrainian foreign minister, and so let's break down some of these comments. Now remember, we don't know what's in this outline. I will tell you this, in everything I've read online, this has only been 45 minutes ago, we don't have an outline. We don't know what's in the outline. If anything, the outline would be leaked somehow to get a good understanding. The Russians haven't given it out. Usually someone in the U.S. Department puts it out, but right now there's a lot of people going through investigation in the Pentagon for leaks. 3 people, by the way, have been fired for that or put on administrative hold. That being said, the first person we heard from all of this is the Ukrainian foreign minister, who said, Ukraine is committed to peace efforts and wants the war to end as soon as possible, reminding people that Ukraine was the one who unconditionally agreed to that ceasefire all the way back on March 11th, saying that it needs to be done as soon as possible. So now, we do understand right here that from day one, Ukraine has pretty much been saying yes to every ceasefire the United States has been putting in front of them. Okay, whether it is the Black Sea, whether it is oil or other kind of critical infrastructure, they've already said yes to it. Now, Russia's been one of those in which for the Black Sea deal, they said yes and then kind of put a list of demands that kind of went unanswered because everyone went, that's not what we talked about. They said yes to the critical infrastructure not hitting, but then not only hit some more after that, but also attacked civilians every single day since then, including, once again, today in Sumy, a couple days ago, and actually, no, today in Dnipro, and then other was Sumy, and it's just another day after another day of Russia just doing that. Today, they also hit places like Odessa and other areas. But we then heard from Macron about the statements here, and he says, "We're all clearly united in our desire for peace. From the very beginning, we've supported President Trump's proposal to end the war in Ukraine as swiftly as possible. This demonstrates a strong European commitment and a willingness to work closely with the United States." Now, remember from day one, they all said that peace cannot be achieved unless the United States is involved because Putin and Russia are scared of the United States. And I know a lot of people could argue that, well, we don't really know that. We haven't really seen it. No, it's true. If the U.S., if they do a certain thing, yes, that Russia knows they can't win against the U.S. And that's why when Trump does say he's got a lot of power, he does. Look, the U.S., doesn't matter who's the president, has a lot of power here. And so under Donald Trump, he's got the power to put more sanctions on Russia, to crash their entire economy, to make oil drop to $50 every single day, which is well below the number that Russia needs it to be at in order to sustain their government, which will once again cause their economy to crash. They also have the power to either give weapons to Ukraine or let Ukraine buy certain weapons to strike inside at Russian targets. There's a lot of threats that the U.S. could do. There's a lot of things in our arsenal we could do to help Ukraine. I know Donald Trump doesn't want to do any of that. He wants to try diplomacy, and that's what we're looking at here. Everyone is trying diplomacy. They're trying it, especially Ukraine, to see if it works. And if it doesn't, then, only then, will the United States under Donald Trump then move forward and say, okay, fine, we tried this the easy way, Russia. We're going to try this the hard way. Now, at least that is what we believe could happen. We don't have proof of that just yet, especially because a lot of people say that Trump is putting out a lot of Russian narratives, which he is getting fed through people like Witkoff and other people who've got connections with Russia. Let's also remember that even today, Donald Trump didn't really say nice things when it comes to Zelensky, calling him, and I want to quote it here, not a big fan. Now, Trump does blame Zelensky for starting this war, even though, realistically speaking, Zelensky wasn't in power when this started all the way back in 2014. And the big blow up that happened in 2022 was a combination of many different factors under many different presidents, under Obama, under Trump, under Biden, and then once again under Trump. It was a combination of Russia actually wanting to do this in 2020, but then the pandemic happened. They were still amassing a lot of men and equipment and things to get the thing going. And that once again occurred under many different presidents over the course of a decade, maybe even longer than that, could be even before 2014. Nonetheless, it now leads us to the remainder comments here, in which Zelensky had taken to social media twice. The first time was to talk about Representative Brian Fitz, who went to Ukraine. He said, "I had a meeting with U.S. Congressman and co-chair of the Congressional Ukraine Caucus, Brian Fitz. The key topics discussed were efforts to establish a dignified and lasting peace, the U.S. proposal for a full and unconditional ceasefire, and security guarantees for Ukraine." So clearly Zelensky had to talk about pretty much what they were talking about in Paris. That being said, we still don't know what's inside of this. Zelensky says here, "We are grateful for the United States' support for Ukraine, the support of many American hearts that feel Russia evil must not prevail." Then later on, Zelensky went back to his conversation with Macron. You see, Macron did say in his tweet earlier that he did speak to Zelensky and that today we've engaged in a positive, constructive discussion on how to achieve both a ceasefire and a comprehensive, lasting peace. And so Zelensky, after speaking to Macron, and said I've had conversations with him twice today, before the meeting and after the meeting, said we coordinated further contacts and meetings. The duration of peace will be directly depend on the justice of positions in diplomacy and the effectiveness of security architecture. Thank you to everyone who stands with us. Once again, everything reliant on security guarantees, something in which the United States says Europe needs to do. Europe says, okay, but we need the U.S. backing. Then they've had multiple meetings without the United States to figure out what they could do in the case that the U.S. finally does agree, but they need to have a backing and what Europe will do. And that is anything from having boots on the ground, unarmed, could be a couple tens of thousands of troops on the ground, to different equipment going to Ukraine, to trainings taking place in Ukraine. A lot of things up in the air. A lot of things not officially announced yet because we don't have an outline. Though, according to Marco Rubio and Zelensky here, there is some kind of outline, some kind of proposal out there. We just don't have the details yet. And that's where we sit right now. There is a peace outline out there. We don't know what's in it. We don't know how the Russians feel, though I'm pretty sure by the time I record this video, Lavrov probably put his statement online because, at least in writing this script, which is like 5 pages long, I didn't find anything as of yet. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. There's a lot of moving parts here. And in my own honest opinion, in reading everything and seeing what's going on, I can see Ukraine really wants this to work. The problem is that we all need to understand Russia has not been trusted in anything, in nothing. And even though we know this, for some reason in the White House, they want to believe that Russia can be trusted. And unfortunately, the only way for the White House not to trust Russia is for Ukraine to agree to things and Russia just keep bailing out of it until the White House and Trump fully understands, you know what, they were right, we can't trust Russia, we need to move forward. But that's where we're at right now. It's a very comprehensive plan, more than likely, because you have to talk about A, a ceasefire, B, land, C, security guarantees, plus a mineral rights deal and a couple other things. And I'm sure it is going to be something that will hopefully be coming in the next few days, breaking all this down. As soon as we do get it, I'll be sure to break it down for you in a video just like this. And I want to thank you guys for joining me. Look, I don't know what's going to happen to TikTok. It's been really bad lately. So if you haven't subscribed yet, I would greatly appreciate that you do. I don't know if I'm going to do a Substack. Everyone wants me to do a Substack. I just don't know if I've got the time for a Substack, but if TikTok goes away or if something happens, it might be the best way to get me. Also, if you go on our shorts here on YouTube, all of our TikTok videos get uploaded there anyway, so you can find out things there. But once again, I want to know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. I really appreciate you coming to the channel, watching my videos, and supporting what I do here, whether it be on TikTok or on YouTube as an independent journalist. I really appreciate all of your support. Thank you so much, and have a great day.